One of the things that I've been striving to deeply understand lately is this concept of critical thinking, because that term lives within many of our district's vision statements. When we ask about their
Mm.
moral purpose, the why behind the work that they're doing, oftentimes it's because we want to position students as critical thinkers. And that made me wonder, how are we defining critical thinking? How do we notice and name the behaviors of someone who is engaged in a critical thinking? Do we deeply understand, or are we using that term vaguely?
Right. Well, so yes, I know I would say most of our teams that we're supporting right now with the visions that they've all created, most will include a version of critical thinking. We also see a lot of fluency, but what's specifically troubling you? Like what's the pebble rattling around in your shoe right now when it comes to unpacking critical thinking with the teams we're supporting?
I guess what I'm struggling with is making sure that I confirm my own understanding of what I mean when I say critical thinking.
Hmm.
Confirming that I have a deep understanding of what that term is really trying to capture. And that's where I look to the Ontario curriculum to see, how are they defining critical thinking, and what are the observable behaviors of a student who owns this process.
Mm-hmm.
I love the idea of, critical thinking being defined as questioning, thinking deeply, and deciding wisely.
Okay.
Ultimately, and that's why, interestingly enough, critical thinking falls under the social learning skills of the math curriculum, because it does position us as social actors to make informed decisions in a society where we're bombarded by information constantly. So I think that the reason I'm interested in this topic right now is that if this is an idea that lives within our visions, it's something that's a guiding principle for the work that we want to do, the conditions we want to create, the experiences and outcomes we want for students, are we creating enough opportunities to really internalize critical thinking, to notice and name its behaviors, and know how to say that's an example of critical thinking living and breathing in our classrooms today?
Yeah. Do you have an example you're working with?
Okay, so we do have a district, although I could probably list many districts that would
Right.
have a
Sure.
similar type of statement. So the one district that we're working with currently, their vision is students actively engage in a dynamic learning environment that fosters confidence, critical thinking, and curiosity.
Hmm.
So that
I
is
like it.
their
Yep.
vision,
Yep.
that they,
Yep.
guides decision making. It's their moral purpose, the why
Yep.
behind the work that they do collectively to strengthen math teaching and learning.
Right.
They have 3 objectives in this district: one around problem solving, one around fluency, and one around mathematical discourse.
Okay.
And so, their belief is that if we strengthen fluency, strengthen problem solving, strengthen discourse, then students will have the outcome defined in their vision.
Right.
That will be
I like
their
that.
mathematical experience.
Yeah, like when I'm looking at that, and I love the simple definition that, thinking carefully, questioning deeply, and deciding wisely is like, if, in a way, if we're focusing on those even 3 things, right? So if we were to break critical thinking down into those 3 things, and we try to do that as often as possible in our math classroom, what I'm sort of like seeing in my mind here is like, you're going to have a classroom experience where we're not just getting the work done. There's a lot of thinking. We're going to be questioning what we do and why we're doing it. And that probably also speaks to the discourse thing. So you're probably having conversations with those around you. And then you're making decisions based on those experiences and those discussions. And, when I look at the type of math classroom that we're trying to build and the districts that we work with are trying to build, most often, like in a way, it's like critical thinking is happening almost all the time in those types of classrooms, right? Like where you're not seeing a whole lot of students just cranking out the answers to things. It's like there's always a
Mm-hmm.
reason why we're doing it. There's always something to explain or justify. And really, I guess as like a self-proclaimed fact finder, like I love going down the rabbit hole. It's like making sure there's no stones overturned in the math classroom, right? Like that
Right.
we didn't miss something here. Like those experiences when we're solving problems and we're really wanting to make sure that we feel confident in that final answer in order to get to that end goal of feeling confident in what you've done, I feel like the act of critical thinking has helped you to get there, because if someone were to challenge you on that answer, you're able to go backwards and sort of, help explain, and, all of the things that you've been thinking about and questioning yourself, like you've already kind of thought those things through. And therefore, that is sort of helping you to sort of justify your case and explain your thinking along the way. Yeah, I said a lot there, which means how do you make that more package size, right? For all educators across a district to like speak the same language and feel the same way.
Let me ask you this, Yvette. Like, do you feel like the district with this vision is doing the work to obtain the vision?
I mean, that's a loaded question. I think yes. I think that work is happening in pursuit of this vision that they have for the mathematical experience. But what I can't confidently say right now is whether all instructional leaders within this district have a shared understanding of what we mean by critical thinking. I don't have enough information to confidently say that. Do I think we're strengthening problem solving? Sure. Fluency, yes. Discourse, yes. I think those things are happening. But do we have a shared collective understanding of this idea of what critical thinking looks like when it's being done effectively and it's being fostered in every classroom? I don't know. And I guess that's what I am questioning.
Right.
How do we create experiences for instructional leaders to live and breathe the behaviors of critical thinking, observe them in student actions and listening to what students are saying, so that we are well positioned to know when the vision has been achieved?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, to me, because that's the work. I think we could always say, like, if you could pick one thing, right? Like if critical thinking is where you want to improve, you could spend, and you probably need to spend, a year trying to make sure there's coherence around what you mean by critical thinking, what this looks like. And you have to, this is the recommendation, right? You have to, no matter what seat I am in, if I'm in a school, if I'm a school leader, whether that's a department head or whether that's a principal or whether that's a math lead, or maybe I'm a math coach, or maybe I'm in a seat at the district level. I'm a math coordinator, or I'm a curriculum coordinator, or maybe I'm a superintendent, or I'm in charge of the coaching team or the math action team. I'm kind of leading that. I think no matter where you sit, is you have to view these as fractal levels. You have to view that as that if I'm trying to strengthen critical thinking, and I'm going to do it through these objectives, then we need to make sure that we are communicating what that means and what that should look like. Like, we have to get clear. Like, we've talked about the puzzle. We have to clearly define the puzzle for ourselves, our teams, and then give those puzzle experiences to the different teams that will be supported or will support. So oftentimes we miss the leadership. We focus on what can we give teachers. Mm-hmm. But if sustainability around critical thinking, or around whatever that term that you want to be is essential component of your mathematical vision, if we think that that's going to live inside our schools and our classrooms, then we have to say, where does that live? Like, we have to make sure that the people that are supporting those experiences for teachers and students also have to have that shared understanding, which means we need to make sure that our administrators know what that looks like, sounds like. We need to make sure our coaches and our math task forces and our support teachers, and it sounds like a lot, because it is. And that's why we always recommend to go narrow, because there's a lot to do. And it's like, but we get too caught up in like switching focuses all the time and staying too lofty. It's like, if you could only do one thing, which was like just get clarity and coherence around what critical thinking looks like in your classrooms, and give everyone a glimpse of what that could be, like everyone consistently, that's like noble work, important work, and it's going to be lasting work. And it would last you 5 years. Like, it's going to last you long enough to be like, we're still there. And it's important work, so we're still there. And it's important work because we're still there. And we're still there because we're measuring the right things to see it that we still need to make work on there. But that's an important, like we talk about that noble component of your vision. That's the guiding light. You're never going to back away from that. So what does it look like? It looks like giving as many people experiences without letting your foot off the gas. There's my soapbox, Yvette.
I know. I wonder, too, if it needs to be a two-tier approach. And what I mean by that is, so, my husband works in a school district where they've been working on universal design for
Mm-hmm.
years. 2 years of dedicated professional development where they've had shared experience coming together around what does universal design mean? What does it look like? What does it sound like? What are the pillars? And it's been a lot of, pull out PD, professional development, guest speakers, videos, examples. But I think the piece that maybe was missing for him is then the application for his role tomorrow. What is he changing?
Totally. It's totally a tiered approach, because
right.
it's like, it's like, hey, if I'm going to just blast everybody with the idea, but then I'm not going to go to Gemba. We've used that term in our blog posts recently and in the last year or so, which is like, it's a Japanese term basically saying, go and see the work, right? Like if you're not getting into the work and actually getting down to like, what do I need to, like, there's pebbles here. We blasted everybody here because it's so important. But how do I help this group? How do I help that group see it? How do I help this group see it? If you're not planning to do that work, that means you have to get into the Gemba. You have to go to the Gemba to see the work in action so that you are in a better position to clear those pebbles. Like sometimes you just need to see yourself as like, as a leader of education, your job is to just clear barriers, like I got my vision, I've got our goals. Like what barriers can I clear now? Oh, there's a barrier there. Let's clear that out of the way. There's a barrier there with our support staff. Let's clear that up. There's a barrier over here. Let's make sure there's clarity here. And it's just about clarity and clearing barriers. Like you can view yourself that way. Like you will get a lot accomplished.
So let's think about, I'm coaching this district. They have critical thinking as a pillar of the work that they're striving to do collectively. I have an opportunity to meet with the leaders of this district. How am I facilitating that learning? And so I'll share that one thing that I plan to do. And then maybe we need to talk though about this more tangible next step, thinking forward, because I think that what I've started to do with this district is create shared experiences. Just like, my
right.
husband's experiencing around universal design, these shared experiences where we're noticing and naming, we're creating awareness. So when I work with this district and we come together with the leadership team, we engage in mathematical thinking and then we connect it to the vision and the objectives. And we have conversation about where was there evidence of fostering confidence, critical thinking, and curiosity through this mathematical experience that we just engaged in? Where were there opportunities to strengthen problem solving, discourse, and fluency? So every time we have a shared experience, we bring it back to the vision, we bring it back to the objectives, we look for observable behaviors and habits reflected in our experience.
Let me ask you this. What's the learning goal of the experience that you're providing to that group? Like, what do you hope the learning goal is for that group?
My learning goal for that group is that they can see evidence of their objectives in our actions. So it's like that experience allowed us to engage in mathematical discourse. Let's define what we mean by mathematical discourse.
Okay, so you're saying I'm working with that group as a team. I'm at a senior level of administration in a way, and I want this group to understand what these actions look like. But is that where it stops?
Right now, yes. Right now, that's I guess why I'm asking the question, right? Is that right now, what I've been striving to do is help the bridges. So those are the instructional leaders within this organization internalize their objectives and their vision. So that's the work that I've been doing so far. But I do recognize that it's like, where's the next fractal piece? Now, each of these instructional leaders ultimately has a goal at their school level.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It's like, so one goal is clearly alignment and making sure that we're coherent around what this looks like, sounds like. But then it's like, but I really want them to translate and have that experience and make sure that they're seeing the connection between the experience we just had and the debrief and the consolidation we just had to understanding the main purpose of that, but also know that the other main purpose was for them to also go like, I want to replicate this because the importance that I just got out of this experience is an experience I need to also recreate with the educators I support. And it's like, do we make that clear in this experience so that it translates into these experiences down here? And if not, maybe we haven't clarified that yet, or maybe this person's not well positioned enough yet to do that type of work. And therefore we have more work to do with the group so that it will translate.
That's what I was just going to ask is, When you're working with a large system, everybody's readiness is going to differ. The number of experiences that I might need to internalize a big idea or to develop deep understanding around a particular objective or a key term within the vision might differ from yours. So when we're
Right.
trying to move an entire system, it is the facilitator's role to gather evidence and feedback that people are well positioned to then it's not easy to replicate something we don't deeply understand.
Right. True.
And so I think that's where
Otherwise,
I'm
you're just mimicking,
struggling.
right? Yeah.
And maybe unintentionally causing more disconnect and confusion. Potentially, if we haven't deeply internalized what it is we're trying to achieve. So this is the work that we're doing. And I mean, the district that I'm describing is a very large district with a lot of people positioned as instructional leaders. So there is a responsibility on the facilitators to be taking a temperature and checking in and doing that follow-up and ensuring that every facilitator who we're asking to go on and replicate this process is well positioned to do that.
Right. What do you believe is your next step?
This is a great question. I think that I am committed to continuing to creating these shared experiences, but then I think that there needs to be more one-on-one coaching through the fractal process to ensure that everybody can clearly articulate the purpose. Because ultimately, if we're not coherent, if we're not aligned in what we're trying to achieve through that experience, is it going to yield the results we're striving for? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find what the one-on-one next level down does, right, is it eliminates the hiders. I was, it wasn't for me, like I was in a group, which is like the bystander effect, like we all think they're talking about somebody else when we're talking about doing this next thing. But then it's like, oh, wait, like, no, I'm face to face with this person. Now this is important and this is for me. And therefore you can't hide when you have that next layer of coaching down, which is an essential component of professional development, is to have that layer, not necessarily to catch hiders, but like to have the level of support that everyone needs at that next level.
The work continues.
Okay. Stay tuned then.
Yeah, I feel like my learning this week is that, as I mentioned, critical thinking exists in so many visions out there. It is our moral purpose for the work that we do and why we do it. But it was important for me to take the time to really understand, when I say critical thinking, what do I mean by critical thinking? What behaviors am I looking for in students?
Yeah. Yeah. And we are critically thinking about the support we're providing. And we actively engage in reflection here today with the teams that we're supporting on an ongoing basis. And because we support school level teams, district level teams, state level teams to create math improvement plans that are sustainable, they're aligned, they're research based, they're impactful, and they have traction. And that type of work takes critical reflection. It takes work, to continually be critical thinkers of the work that you're doing. And you saw a little bit of a glimpse here for us to kind of do that together today. And it's important work. If you want us to have a look at your system and look at what the work that you're currently doing or the work that you could be doing, reach out to us, book a discovery call. We can talk about your system. It's so over at makemathmoments.com/discovery. We could be talking about the work you're doing maybe tomorrow. And other than that, we'll talk to you in the next episode.